everybody, what is up? My name is Mackenzie.
And I'm Jonathan.
We are husband and wife, and we'd like to welcome you to TerreDice.
And today we're taking a look at Rolling Heights, the brand new game published by AEG and designed by John D. Clare, who's brought games such as Space Base, Cubidos, Mystic Vale. He's back with this uniquely three-dimensional stacking game with rolling meeples as a mechanic.
Now, this game is coming to Kickstarter on February 8th. Now, if that sounds like a game you might want to play, then just keep watching. In Rolling Heights, you manage all kinds of workers to build the most prosperous real estate business. Now, rather than placing your little worker meeples, you roll them. Throughout the game, you will earn workers to add to your crew, such as carpenters, construction workers, architects, riveters, executives, and public figures. Each turn, you roll up to 10 of these workers to try to send them to work.
Now your warehouse is your dice tray, and you'll gain benefits based on how your meeples land in that warehouse. So whether they're working hard, working steady, or exhausted. Now you get a few shots to roll because at least half of your meeples have to be working. But once you get that far, you can push your luck to try to get more. But beware, because if you roll again and they all land exhausted, your workers strike and you lose half your working meeples.
Now, workers are used mostly for resources. You get steel, wood, glass, concrete to build your buildings, spending resources to claim sites, and then building up those sites to match their plans. Once a site has been completed, you gain the bonus points and workers. Each turn, you can place resources anywhere. That means you can be working on multiple sites at once.
Then you add up all the points at the end, and whoever has the most wins.
Now that is the overview of Rolling Heights, but let's head down to the board so we can really dive into this game.
All right, first off, gameplay-wise, we played this at 2, 3, 4. At all player counts, it plays really nicely. It's about an hour or below, and just really, really good cadence.
Yeah, one thing I like about it is that you are always doing something in between your turn. So there's always like something to do managing your resources.
Very minimal downtime.
So you're not just sitting there waiting.
Yeah. And it's a modular board. So one thing you may notice is that there's 6 different plates, and they actually have an A and a B side. One has more land, so you actually flip those over based on the number of players. So it keeps the board tight at the lower counts and opens it up a bit more at the higher player counts. Because they are separate boards, they also shuffle around, so it's a totally different configuration every time you play this game.
Yeah, and so one of the neat things about it is like you see the open market down here.
Yeah.
Once someone takes something from the open market, everything moves down and new stuff becomes available in the market. But sometimes the things at the very bottom, like the bottom row, people won't want to buy them because maybe it's something you don't want to do. So what I like is that these VIP chips get added, which basically are wild cards, like they discount for resources. So the longer people don't pick the first 2, those will keep getting added every turn. And so it really incentivizes getting that. So it refreshes the deck. So it's not going to stay stale.
Yes, these definitely get super fresh, which is really important because this game is all about chaining. It's all about positional things. So it's like you want to be next to parks. You don't want to be next to factories. There's also specific spaces that you get bonuses for landing particular types of buildings on those spaces. So it does a really good job at that. There's a level 1 side and a level 2 side for the building types. So some of them are a lot more simple at the beginning of the game to pick up than others.
All right, now let's talk about these meeples because this is a mechanic I have never seen before. Like your meeples basically act like your die and you roll them and that determines what to do with it. And I think that is so neat.
Yeah,
and I love how it's actual people like working or hardly working, and that's determined. I think it's
that is
good
theme.
Cute.
We love good theme, and one thing that's awesome about this is like they're your construction workers. So I think about the ones laying on their side, and it's like, oh, do I gotta do it, boss? I can put in some work, but you got the ones who are working, and they're like, yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah.
So it's very good theming.
I also love that if you're too harsh of a boss and push them too hard, they will actually go on strike. Meaning like that you can't get them to all stand up if you push it too much, then you lose half of your workers. So I think that's fun.
That's
now,
very cool.
there definitely is, we have discovered an art to rolling these meeples. At least I think there is. Trick, I think you kind of have to throw it against, I didn't. One. But normally, I think you have to roll it against the side of the box, and that will get more of your meeples
tosses them up on their
stand
sides.
up. Yeah.
Though I appreciate this. This is it looks like a warehouse kind of, and on the inside it's like a construction site. So it really kind of works thematically, and I think that piece is nice.
Yeah, and it's just fun. I like the tactile aspect of this game, like the rolling all the meeples, and then just the table presence that you end up with at the end of the game and throughout the game. It's fun. It's like almost like playing with Legos, like stacking all of these things and getting to watch your city actually grow before you instead of it just being a picture, which is like a lot of these building games. You actually get to grow your towers, which I like.
And now this may look a little bit chaotic towards the end of the game. We got a ton of buildings going on, but during the game, you're probably going to actually have 2 to 5 unbuilt buildings that are kind of working their way up. And I found that surprisingly, it was really easy to track what was still in progress. So immediately you take one of your cap tokens and you put it somewhere on that tile. So I know that that's an unfinished building. But what's nice about that is that I might roll 2 steel and a glass and I don't need them for the same building. I can put a steel here, and a glass here. So you can be kind of building up all your buildings at once, which I found that was really easy to track, which I didn't expect.
One thing I thought was an interesting mechanic is that you have to use all of your resources that turn. There's no saving. So you can't start getting your own stockpile. You really have to plan it out, and like it's really about stacking your meeples because you can't save it for later. Yeah,
and that's why you want to have multiple buildings kind of being built at once, because if you get too much of one resource, the resources are also what you use to buy these different sites. And it's also you have to build adjacent to another one of your sites. And if you want to build further away, you actually spend resources for the distance that you have to build. So that's how you can burn through your resources in other ways too. Yeah, and this game is it's deceivingly difficult. Like I thought at first, especially with the cover, it looks so friendly, it looks so nice and fun. It's not super light. It's definitely not a light game. There's so much going on with like your orthogonally adjacent goals, and then also there's these like advertisement tiles that give you global goals, as well as you have target tiles, which are your private hidden goals. And I guess one thing that was interesting about these is you actually keep both your private goals the whole game, and you decide at the end of the game which one to score. Usually they make you discard one, but I did actually find that the types of goals that are on these, it really actually depends how the game goes, because it might be something related to having the tallest buildings or having the most buildings in a neighborhood. And that's what we like about Rolling Heights. Now, as far as drawbacks go, really the main things that you'll see with this game are really going to be dependent on the players you're playing with and how your game is going. This is a big game. It's not the easiest game in the world. And there's a lot of thinking. So people can get caught up thinking, do I go there? Do I go there? A lot of analysis paralysis. But another thing that's really important is that you have to roll your meeples until you at least get half of them standing. And that can take a few rolls. That could take, 5, 6 rolls. And so if players aren't doing that, kind of clipping each other's turns where it's like this player's going, but that player's rolling, it actually recommends in the book, you should be rolling when it's not your turn, so you get that out of the way. If players don't do that, if they're caught up over here, you're going to be waiting on them figuring out what they want to do.
Yeah, you have to be a very independent player when you play this game. Like everyone learns their roles, and then everyone's gonna kind of be doing things in between while other people are going. So you have to know that your other players, that you can count on them, that everyone's playing the rules correctly, because it will be hard to actually make sure that everyone's doing it correctly. It can be very easy to actually do it on accident and grab things that you didn't understand.
Yeah, so this is one of those games where you have to be okay with not knowing what other players are up to.
It's a trust building exercise, but it's really good. And but I like that aspect of doing something all the time. I enjoy that part.
Now there's an exception to that. At the end of the game, you start running out of resources. You can't get those resources ahead of time. I would recommend the rest of the game, get your resources ahead of time, like cash in all your meeples. But when it gets towards the end, you got to stop doing that, because you got to make sure that the current player has the ability to get the rest of whatever's left.
Now I want to move over to components and talk about component quality. Now, full disclosure, we were working with a prototype. This is not the final copy. So some of these things might change. But as far as stacking all the buildings, most of the time it works really well, but they can be a little fiddly. They do not snap in like if you played with Legos before.
No, they just kind of rest on top of each
other. So a little bump of the table, those might go flying.
I'll bump the table and just the whole building goes down.
That wasn't me. And everyone's building towers around each other, and so you have to be careful when you go into the city, like the monster you're going into the city, that you don't knock over other people's buildings.
Yeah, and I am guilty of being like, don't knock over my buildings, then I'll knock it over next year.
So just be cautious with that. Again, it was a prototype, so they might be fixing that issue. But
also there was
the stacking aspect.
Yes, there was also a color issue. So there were 2 meeples, the kind of like dark grayish black and the purple one, that were just too close in color. You couldn't tell the difference between the two. But they're changing one to like a peach color, so they're going to be totally different. So they fix kind of the color things in there. Now, as far as who this game is for, this is not a like gateway entry game. It absolutely can be played by all players, but there's a lot going on. There's a lot of different scoring mechanisms, these global goals, these hidden goals, and there's just a lot of ways to score points, and you're really gonna have to be thinking way ahead. I think that's the big differentiator, is that you've thought 6 or 7 turns ahead on, well, I'm gonna build that, then I'm gonna build that, and then I'll get all my points. So it's hard to kind of realize and fulfill all your points on your board.
Yeah, but as far as like ages, like we had Jonathan's 13-year-old brother play, and he really caught on to what to do. And like that rolling meeple aspect and the building aspect of the Legos really adds like a fun, tangible thing throughout the game. All right, everyone, and that is our review of Rolling Heights, which is coming to Kickstarter on February 8th. We've left a link down below where you can click on it to go over to the Kickstarter and go check it out. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe and hit that bell for notifications so you can know whenever we put out a new video. And we'll see you next time.
Happy playing!